An Australian hero, a Victoria Cross recipient, and one of our finest soldiers. Now a federal court judge has found Ben Roberts-Smith murdered or was complicit in the murder of 4 unarmed Afghans.
Let's bring in Justin Quill of major law firm Thomson Greer in Melbourne and Special Forces veteran Heston Russell on the Gold Coast. Thank you both for your time. Justin, let's start with you. There are a number of allegations here and this was a significant finding.
Very significant, about as bad a day as you could possibly imagine for Ben Roberts-Smith. Look, there were 3 sets of allegations or type of allegations. The murder allegations, the most serious. Then there were effectively bullying allegations and a domestic violence allegation. The judge found that the murder allegations were true, but didn't find all of the other allegations true. But the judge said it didn't matter. Those other allegations, because they're less serious than the murder allegation, just didn't matter. They effectively became irrelevant.
And what happens now? Obviously, this was a civil case, not a criminal case.
Yeah, look, it is a civil case, not a criminal. That means the standard of proof was a little bit different, not beyond reasonable doubt, as everyone knows in criminal cases. It also wasn't as low as the balance of probabilities. It was a test in the middle called the Briginshaw test. But the interesting thing is about this, of course, is that Ben Roberts-Smith, unlike a criminal case where he would be dragged to court by a criminal charge laid by the DPP, Ben Roberts-Smith chose to bring this to court. So that's one of the major differences between this. And the other difference, of course, is there's no sentence as a result of this. There'll be costs implications and he loses his case, but there's no sentence. It's not like he's off to jail as a direct result of this.
It was tough watching yesterday, Heston, and we're very mindful of how difficult a day it would have been for veterans and also currently serving personnel in the ADF. Straight away there was debate about whether his medals should be stripped. What do you think about that first up?
Yeah, g'day, Carl. I think Justin's hit the nail on the head. This was a civil proceeding, and from the start, I've been outraged the last few years that veterans have to go through these civil proceedings because they're not being given the respect of meeting the thresholds of beyond reasonable doubt evidence in a criminal court, and it's the only recourse we literally have. Need to clear up that Ben Roberts-Smith received his Victoria Cross for one specific action where he was seen to be at that level of gallantry. His Victoria Cross and that incident was never in question. Yeah. So he should not be losing his Victoria Cross, nor was his Medal of Gallantry. Those are conversations to be had by the service chiefs, but straight up front, I think we need to really nip that in the bud because there's a bit of a pile-on going on at the moment. Yeah. And, I definitely think we need to afford Ben and his team due process because this was a civil proceeding. He's not a convicted war criminal.
Yeah, and I guess that's the difference, absolutely. The other question that it's thrown up there is just what this means for the SAS going forward. We know that the Defence Force has been under a lot of scrutiny. Heston, how do you read it?
Yeah, Sarah, the Defence Force has moved forward 10 years since this. We're talking 2023. This is over 10 years ago, and this is the very dangerous thing that has come from this. Like you saw posted Burton report, the shutting down of 2 Squadron SAS, just an absolutely disgusting action where there were less than 5 soldiers in that unit who'd actually been to Afghanistan, and it has a legacy since Vietnam. The Defence Force of today is not in question as to what it was back then. So I think we really need to make sure we put these in context and not drag them forward and do what we did post the Burton report and tar everyone with the same brush.
I get what you're saying. Also, I've read the citations, and Ben Roberts-Smith I've been in a room where he's told the story about that gallantry that day where he received the VC, and it's extraordinary heroism. Something happened, right? And after that, or before it, and then the time since, and these charges or these allegations have been made. And yesterday was an awful day. And he basically went from the highest honour to where he is now. What's happened there, and is there something to safeguard that from happening to our SAS? We ask these guys to go overseas and to kill. And then is there enough safeguards in position, in place, to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, Carl, we as a nation need to step up and I think just pay a little bit of respect that's owed to our veterans to realise that war is so unique. So unique that we have a mental health and suicide crisis with a Royal Commission into it at the moment. Yeah. But we haven't yet realised that the impact of war on people is enough to warrant for these accusations to be played out in a court of law where the threshold is beyond reasonable doubt as per a criminal law and not played before the media and require defamation proceedings and trial by media. Like, that's the biggest disappointment and national disgrace to me, is that we literally have to fight these in public opinion and defamation because we haven't yet afforded the same protections that are afforded to sex offenders in our country for allegations of war crimes.
But there has to be accountability as well.
Absolutely, Carl. And, we have the Office of the Special Investigator stood up, and throughout this whole last 3 years, myself and many others have called for all of these to be brought to the respective authorities for due process, not to be played out like this. And Ben's had to take this action himself. And the key point is, from here, if there are grounds to have him tried under criminal proceedings, that is completely separate to this. But as it stands, he simply lost a defamation case with everything that's come from that.
I mean, these stories were published 5 years ago. It was 110 days in court, so it was quite a saga. We all heard about it. It was on the news every single night, playing out. I mean, there were allegations that were levelled against him, and it turns out that the court found they were true.
Yeah, so the courts found them true to that level of proof that Justin just said beforehand. The key point is that they haven't been proven beyond reasonable doubt, and therefore they're not criminal convictions. And look, what needs to happen from here is what needs to happen. If that is the case, it's to unfold. But you're right, Sarah, it has been an absolute saga. And the real disappointment from me is waking up to articles in other media outlets calling for this case to mean that we need to abandon our farcical Anzac myths and all these other things that people jump on their agendas that damage the veteran community and our reputation. So I just probably really call for people to focus on the specifics and keep it on this subject.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mindful of all that. I appreciate you being with us. Thank you, guys.